Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and all of the rest of those of you out there in YouTube and wherever else land, wherever this video is going to end up. Uh, my name's Ross Weaver. If you don't know me, I'm basically nobody. I'm just a big fan of Hideo Kojima and all of his games, and just games in general, and I like stories and good storytelling. So, what we're here tonight to talk about is Metal Gear Solid V. I say tonight because I'm recording this all kind of in one go here, real quick, kind of ad hoc, because I want to jump on this real quick. To really properly present this whole thing that I want to present tonight is going to take a little while to put together. There's a lot to this, what I'm about to lay out here, and this is just going to be kind of a primer of what I'm going to go over. I've got my outline pulled up here, and I'm just going to kind of go over it and lay out this little theory I've come up with, this interpretation of Metal Gear Solid V that I've seen some people suggest some things in this arena in the past, but I've never seen a full explanation of it like I've kind of come up with here myself. I've been looking into the Ruse and Metal Gear Solid, and I've been a fan of Metal Gear Solid since 98 or 99. I can't remember what year it was I first played it. But I've been a fan of this series for a long time, and I've been looking into this Ruse stuff for a few years now. I did a little podcast a little while back with a couple other guys. It was fun. I kind of want, like I said, I kind of want to jump on this, though, and get it out there before anybody else tries to basically scoop me, because I've been talking about it on Twitter for the past few days, and a few other places on Discord and things like that, Reddit, or Never Be Game Over. I just put a post up there tonight about what this theory is. So if you've seen that post on MDGO, you might know what the heck's about to happen here. So everyone sit down and get ready to have someone finally explain to you the plot of Metal Gear Solid V. Well, at least most of it. More of it that's been explained so far. It's going to be more than what you know already. You're going to get new stuff here. So stick around. Enjoy. So before I go into the proper theory, let me kind of set things up a little bit. In magic, stage magic specifically, there are some classic tricks. You've heard the phrase, the oldest trick in the book. Well, I've seen a stage magic act pretty recently that I looked up that this guy calls the second oldest trick in the book. And the second oldest trick in the book, according to him, is the cups, or a shell game, essentially. The cups is where you have a couple of cups, or maybe three, and you show them to the audience. They're normal cups. There's nothing wrong with them. There's no holes in them or anything like that. And they've got a couple of balls, and they can make the balls seemingly move by magic underneath the cups, from one cup to the other, on top of one cup, and into his hand, and gone, and so on and so forth. It's a shell game. You can't figure out which one it's under. If, say, you're going up against a street magician who knows how to do this sleight of hand trick, and he's moving the ball on you, and you're trying to watch which cup has got the ball under it, and he's switching it out, and you don't even know it. How are you going to win this game? Well, if you get lucky, maybe, right? There's only a limited number of shells, right? Well, maybe not, though. Maybe he's so good he moved the ball off the board completely, and it's not under any of them. So anyways, that's the shell game. Now, in Metal Gear Solid V, we see a lot of sleight of hand kind of tricks used on us. To put them formally, we have Hollywood filmmaking leveraged against us as the audience, essentially. We've all been in the West, kind of, and most people in the world really, have been brought up in a certain kind of language of film that's expected to sort of be interpreted in a certain way. So when a cut is made in a certain way, the audience doesn't just all of a sudden lose their perspective on what the heck's going on. We can kind of follow it. And it's because of this whole Hollywood system of filmmaking that's been set up. Now, there's a great Hollywood movie that deals with the specific kind of, intersection of these two things here, the shell game and the Hollywood format, which is the movie The Prestige. The Prestige by Christopher Nolan is a great film. You should watch it if you haven't seen it. The biggest trick the film pulls on you as the audience member is the first shot it shows you with the title card, The Prestige, is actually showing you the prestige of the film. The film's magic trick that you don't figure out until the very end is basically spoiled for you in the very first frames if you know what you're looking at, but nobody knows what they're looking at in those first few frames because you can't. It's impossible. The trick is just too incomprehensible for whatever reason. It's too complicated. The mechanics are just, they're new or something like that. It's some crazy technology. Who knows what it could be? So Metal Gear Solid V uses the Hollywood kind of filmmaker's toolkit as a way of sort of fooling the viewer. And this kind of Hollywood filmmaker's toolkit kind of mimics the mind control that Venom Snake has been programmed with. So let's say there's some information that Venom is compartmentalized to not know, then the player will be compartmentalized to not know. And this will be explicit throughout the text of the game, in the truth tapes, in everything everyone says to you. A lot of these people are in on it, or they're aware of it, and they don't want to spoil it for their own purposes. I'll get to the specifics of this here in a bit, but basically, we're having a huge magic trick played on us in Metal Gear Solid V because of our unique perspective as the player character being Venom Snake and who that person really is. Now, before I just go out and spill the beans, let me tell you, Metal Gear Solid V is really about 3 big bosses. That's right, there's 3 big bosses out there. Now, the first one is Venom Snake, our player character. Now, Venom Snake, we all kind of believe he's the medic, right? That seems to be the accepted explanation, but it's just simply not true, for several reasons that I'll get into in the full video, but just go with me for now. He's not the medic. Now, I know who he is. He's Chico. If you've played Peace Walker, you know there's a very crucial scene where Big Boss walks in on Chico, who Chico has just given up his comrades, so he's kind of in a pickle. Big Boss comes into a shed where Chico's being held, possibly. I can't remember if he's being held or if he's hiding there. But basically, he's just having this breakdown where he feels like his world is over. And here's Big Boss. And there's a very critical scene that you need to probably go watch. So during this breakdown, Chico's brought out of this pit by Big Boss's speech. And at one point in the speech, Boss tells him to become an hombre nuevo, or tells him that he basically has become an hombre nuevo, a new man. And he asks Chico to give his new life to him as Big Boss. And earlier in the scene, he had given Chico a couple of photos because Big Boss's cover in Peace Walker was that he was a wildlife photographer. So he's walking around with this really cool camera. Actually, it's the camera I think that Che Guevara had, because when Chico sees Big Boss come in with the camera, he's like, "Oh, that's Che's camera. He thinks it's really cool and all." And then the scene goes from there. But Big Boss gives him these photos. One of them's of Amanda. It's of his comrades, basically. That scene of giving a man photos and then telling him he's a new man and asking him to give his life for Big Boss, this is what's happened to Venom at the beginning of Metal Gear Solid V in the hospital. The photo, the whole trauma thing, everything is repeated, basically. This is Chico's awakening. This is not just some random medic. So the medic's not random. Like I said, this theory's got a lot of moving parts. It's all interconnected, and explaining one part it all leads into everything else. So let's just keep going. If Venom is Chico and he's not the medic, well then who the hell is the medic? And why is he even a part of this game? Well, if you've played Peace Walker, again, going back to this game, you know that there is a co-op story mode. You could play through the story of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker as Big Boss, or you could be player 2 and be playing as a MSF soldier who goes along with Big Boss on every mission and probably tosses Big Boss a lot of rations because Big Boss tends to get in a lot of big gunfights in Peace Walker and needs to get a lot of healing. So that's why it's a medic. And that's where Ishmael comes from. Ishmael is not some illusion that Ahab creates out of necessity and then Ahab somehow magics himself out of the frickin' hospital. Hell no. the people that were in the chopper when it went off at the end, when the bomb went off at the end of Ground Zeroes, it was Big Boss, Chico, and the medic, and the Paz was throwing herself out. And then there was Kaz, and there maybe, I guess, was the pilot and possibly one other person. But what is almost certainly what happened is the medic and Chico threw themselves in front of the explosion. Both of them did. Chico was probably the one in front because he lost his left arm, and he was on Big Boss's left. And given how Chico felt about Paz, he might not have even been jumping in front to get in front of Big Boss. He might have been jumping after Paz, which is maybe why he got injured so badly. So he probably put his arm out, lost his arm, and ended up with some of the explosion fragments embedded into his head, knocked him out into a coma probably for a couple of years, because that's what all the intel seems to indicate, is that the two people that were shipped from the crash to Cyprus were in a coma for 2 years. So Chico was probably knocked out into that bed, and next to him was probably the medic. The medic had taken the blow too, but Chico took most of it. And Ocelot tells the real Big Boss in the truth tapes, and I'm telling you, it's Ishmael, and Ocelot knows it's Ishmael, knows it's the medic. Ocelot tells him that Chico took the blast for him, and he's not lying. It's true both for Big Boss and the medic. The medic is posing as Big Boss's body double because Zero has hidden the real Big Boss off the table somewhere. The real Big Boss is missing in action for the entirety of Metal Gear Solid V. In fact, Ground Zeroes is probably not even the real Big Boss's version of the mission. It's probably like some kind of reconstruction that Ishmael participated in, or maybe experiences through virtual training. And Chico probably has to go back and experience it too. And how do I know this is true? Because of the voice. We know that the voice has changed. It's not David Hayter's voice anymore, it's Kiefer Sutherland's voice. Kiefer Sutherland is voicing the medic. And the reason the voice has changed is because it's a necessity in the plot. Not because of just some cash grab by Konami. That doesn't make sense, and that's silly. They wouldn't just do that. They didn't just do that. They just couldn't tell us that they didn't just do that because that would be giving away the trick. And a good magician never gives away the trick like that. The voice has changed, and the voice thing is actually really key. I'll explain it more, but it's key because probably Skullface doesn't know what John's voice really sounds like. As much as Skullface was John's shadow all for those 10 years, do you think he got his hands on a single piece of intel that actually had the real voice of the real Big Boss? We know he doesn't speak at all in the ending there of Metal Gear Solid 3, infamously. So does anybody really know what he sounds like that hasn't gotten operational intel directly from Major Zero? The only people we can really be sure know what the real Big Boss sounds like are people who have met him and really talked to him. That's probably basically just Chico the medic and Ocelot, as far as Metal Gear Solid V characters go, I guess, and Kaz. Do you think Zero trusted Skullface? Hell no. In fact, Zero's lying to Skullface a lot through a lot of the things he feeds Ishmael, because everything that he feeds Ishmael is probably going to make its way back to Skullface. So this has all got to be kept compartmentalized and cleaned and sanitized, and everything's got to look up to code, basically. And furthermore, Chico went after Paz in Ground Zeroes. Chico was captured, tortured, and probably gave up some information and probably betrayed MSF and helped Skullface with the attack on MSF's base. So Chico was probably known to be a traitor already, or at least be susceptible to giving up information, so he wouldn't be trusted with any information. He would be kept compartmentalized. You get all these tapes throughout the game. They're tapes. Tapes are fallible. There's no video. They're just an audio recording. It's a magnetic set of data on a strip of tape. It can be manipulated. It can be cut. A tape could be staged. You don't even know if what you hear is real. There's sound effects that can be made. There's a whole someone could be just putting on a show and mimicking what is actually happening. If you listen to the truth tapes, there's actually a lot of lies in them. One of the big ones is Zero's poisoning. Zero faked his poisoning on the phone. Do you think he actually would just get a pen from Skullface and just open the box for the first time right there? No. Skullface was fooled. Zero knew that there was someone after him, but he probably didn't know who it was, so he probably had Paz come to Hell's Kitchen and gave Paz the location of this place and then sent Paz off on this mission on Ground Zeroes, on Peace Walker, because he knew that eventually that intel that she had on the location would leak out to whoever was after him. So he probably burned that location back in like 74. And he left that spot. So when Skullface sends a pin of his old comrade from World War II, you think he's just going to open it up and just get pricked by it, and then he's poisoned and that's it? Pshh! This is David O we're talking about. David motherfucking O does not get a damn poison on the back of a pin that takes him down. Hell no. Zero faked getting poisoned to Skullface, and we know this because he made a recording of the whole thing. If he was suspect of Skullface enough to make a recording of the damn conversation, like, that's enough for me to know that there's some kind of shenanigans going on here. Anytime Zero's recording himself doing anything, he's putting on a show. Because if he's doing some real intel shit, do you think he's going to let any of it get recorded? Like, if it's something that he has the choice to either record or not record, and like he's about to talk about some sensitive shit. No, he's only going to talk about some sensitive shit on record, on some kind of tape recording, if he's okay with that intel getting out because it serves a greater purpose. Now, I'll get into like the whole thing, but basically his plan was the Patriots. He had this new system that he had to get up, but he had to wrap up all of his old loose ends. You see, he didn't have control of XOF, and that's a problem, basically. So his plan to wrap up XOF really was Paz. Paz wasn't just sent in to take out Big Boss and wrap up MSF. It was also meant to catch the tail of the fox, XOF, and wrap him all up too. What I think Zero didn't count on was that when Paz gets captured, and I'll go into further all of this, but I think what happened was Zero didn't count on Chico going after Paz to rescue her. Chico gets captured, and that makes the torture worse for both of them, and so Paz gives up some information, probably sooner than Zero had expected, and Chico gives up some information that Zero didn't expect at all, and I bet Zero had sent Big Boss to Guantanamo expecting Skullface to still be there torturing Paz, and for Big Boss to walk in on it and just kill Skullface outright and take care of his problem for him. But as we know, that didn't happen. Skullface left right as Big Boss was climbing up the side, like just before. That can't be a coincidence. That's incredible. If Skullface knew Big Boss was crawling up the side, wouldn't he have just taken him out if that was his objective? And think about this. After the crash happens, all of a sudden Ocelot shows up and Eva shows back up too. Zero hasn't seen these folks since 10 years ago, and he probably has some operational need to get them out. But he can't just go out and say it, so he has to stage this whole event. I think that Zero set up the whole explosion in Morpho, that he knew that after Skullface had gotten taken out, that Big Boss would take Chico and would take Paz back into the helicopter, and the bomb would go off. All right, well, I'm already starting to lose my voice tonight. I've got work tomorrow morning. I work a regular 9 to 5. I've got to keep it up. That's why, like I said, I'm making this kind of in a hurry tonight. I've got a lot to do this week, and I got a lot to do these coming weekends to make this video a thing. Like I said, I've been looking at my outline here, and I'm going to be writing a full video and doing it all up nice with some cool game footage. I might record some cool footage of me. I might dress up as Venom Snake as Chico, because my left arm is actually in a brace right now, and I've got kind of longish hair that kind of matches the haircut that Venom Snake's got going on in V. But before I go, let me leave you with a couple of last little tidbits of this whole theory. One thing I want you to ask yourself is, what year is it really? We know the famous Twin Peaks ending, the return ending with Dale Cooper asking himself, what year is it? Or what year is this? And we should be asking ourselves that too in Metal Gear Solid V. There's more than a few anachronisms in this game that you can discover. The biggest one, I think, is that there's a few tapes you can pick up that feature songs that are from after 1984. You can find, I think it's the Jay Giles Band? No, I've confirmed it's not the J. Giles Band. It's a song by The Cure. Friday, I'm in Love was released 18 May 1992. And then Midge Ure's cover of The Man Who Sold the World was 1985. And Europe's The Final Countdown was released in 1986. You can find all three of these tapes in tape players in Metal Gear Solid V. Let me ask you, what kind of music you think they were listening to in Afghanistan in the early 90s? Do you think they had a bunch of new stuff, or do you think they were mostly listening to stuff from the 80s? I should note here that it's on record in the Metal Gear universe that the Outer Heaven incident takes place in 1995. Another thing you might be wondering is, what's the deal with how he looks the way he does? How does Venom look like Big Boss? Well, he's wearing a parasite suit. And I know this is crazy, but think about it this way. They already had made clones of people years earlier, and now they have these parasites. Maybe they've used these parasites to create a Venom suit. And they've probably used this parasite therapy to create a lot of suits. We know that's probably how Quiet is brought back. Hell, Quiet's probably killed, and what we're seeing is not really Quiet more as much as it's a parasite suit that's absorbed Quiet and her memories and everything, or something close to that. And I know this is kind of opening up a can of worms, but how else do you explain the parasite vision that Venom has? This also kind of explains what's so weird about Kazuhira. He's probably also a parasite copy of the real Kazuhira. There's several characters that are probably parasite copies of other characters, wearing a someone's suit. This is why they featured the Snatchers in Ground Zeroes, because Zero had already been working on the technology. He probably already had it perfected. Now, I know he said it takes multiple generations to Skullface on that phone call, and that he wasn't pursuing it anymore, but I think that was a lie. And I'll get into why I think that, because I said there was a can of worms. Well, this is like the mother of all cans of worms, okay? And what I'm going to get into in this whole video is just going to rock your world. It's the wildest theory you've probably ever heard. It's the classic ruse theories all rolled into one. Like I said, there's a lot of things going on here, and a lot of them are kind of obvious, and it's kind of like, oh, duh, why didn't I think of that kind of stuff? But we're literally programmed not to see these things because of the way we've been watching movies our whole lives. Hideo's basically betrayed us again. He's played us like a damn fiddle!